Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Healing with Nama. I am Casey, and first off, I want to shout out Yasuke for supplying the vibes for my intro and my outro. So if you heard the music at the beginning and when you hear it at the end, that is Yasuke. I will put his information down in the description of this episode so that you can find more of his music, because he has some really good music. And you can start following him on Spotify and all that good stuff and put yourself onto his music, because it's really good. So today I want to talk about dealing with anxiety. I'm just going to keep it brief, and I will make a more, in-depth podcast episode about anxiety another time. But this time I just wanted to talk about 10 things that I do or have done when I'm feeling anxious. So just super simple. So number one, I stop what I'm doing, and I've learned this thing from Mel Robbins. She's like a motivational speaker that I found on YouTube, and she has this thing called the 5-second rule. So you count, like, when you are doing something that you don't really feel like doing, or you're procrastinating about something, or for me, what I use it for is when I have an anxious thought or a negative thought, I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I switch it to a positive thought. So I'm no longer allowing myself to go down that rabbit hole, the negativity. It's just like, nope, I have to think about something else. Or another thing that she said is like to switch to saying that you're excited about something. So I'm excited about whatever it is, even if that's not something that's actually going to happen anytime soon. Just telling yourself you're excited kind of puts your brain in that state of being excited versus anxious, because she says that those two feelings in your body are the same. So when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling excited, it feels the same within your body. The only reason that you categorize it as different is because your brain. So in your brain, you tell yourself this is a good feeling or a bad feeling, but it's the same feeling. So she says if you start telling yourself you're excited about something, then your brain and your body may start to believe that you're actually excited instead of anxious. It's worth a try, right? The second thing that I do is breathe. And this is something that I notice sometimes I don't do. And I don't intend to not breathe. Obviously, I am breathing, but I don't deep breathe sometimes when I'm feeling anxious. And once I stop and remind myself to take a breath, I realize that I've kind of been holding my breath. And it kind of just eases my body and relaxes me a little bit, calms me down. And then I also like to use peppermint when I do this. So I have like peppermint roll-on that I got from Amazon. That's really strong. And I just like breathe it in and breathe out, and just that kind of just calms me down. Sometimes I'll put it on my hand. If I'm really anxious, I'll put the peppermint on my hand and just smell my hands and just breathe. Obviously wash your hands after, because that peppermint oil will burn your eyes, but it'll help you calm down. The third thing is to remind myself that I am safe. So a lot of the times when I get anxious, it is because I am worried about something. I'm worried about this bad thing happening or that bad thing happening, and then it's just a pile on of negative thoughts. And the one thing that I can do and that I have control over is to remind myself that I am safe. Because for the most part, I am safe. I'm in my room, or I'm somewhere where there's no imminent danger coming towards me. It's just my mind making me believe that there are all these bad things happening, and they're happening right now. So if I stop and I remind myself that I am safe, then it kind of calms me down, and it reminds me to think about the fact that I'm safe and think about the fact that there is no danger around. Another thing that I do is meditation or yoga. Now, disclaimer for me, meditation is something that I do to keep myself calm just on a daily basis. And I do go on and off of meditating every day. Sometimes I switch it out. But for me, if I am already having anxiety or in an anxiety or panic attack, I do not meditate because it makes it worse for me. Obviously, you have to figure out what works for you, but for me personally, when I am already in an anxious state, sitting down and trying to quiet my thoughts makes me more anxious, because now I'm just sitting and thinking. I need to be doing something else. So like yoga, or like find a dance video on YouTube, or something that doesn't require me to sit and listen to my thoughts is better for me. Some people, when they're feeling anxious, meditating really helps them. So it just kind of depends on the person that you are, and you have to figure that out for yourself, what works for you. Reading also helps me if I'm feeling anxious. So I like to read, different books. Usually if I am in the midst of an anxiety or panic attack, I don't necessarily want to read about being anxious or having anxiety, or read things like that, because it just makes me more anxious and makes me hyper focus on the fact that I'm having anxiety. So I like to read things that have nothing to do with what's going on for me. And I always have a book handy because I just like to read. So I just, read about something else that takes my mind off of it. Number 6 is to write in my journal. So just writing, and it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be accurate. It's just writing about how I'm feeling, what's coming up for me. Sometimes I even just jot down like all the feelings that I'm having at that moment and just throw them down on the paper to get it out of my head. Just writing for me is very therapeutic. It's something that I really like to do. I love to go back to my journals and see how I handled the situation or how I felt during that time. And then once I'm already, I'm out of it and I'm months removed from it, go back and see, hey, I remember when I was having that feeling, and it can help me if I ever feel like that again. What did I do in that moment? Or it reminds me that this has already happened before and I made it through. So it just it helps me. It helps me to capture my thoughts. And journaling for me is just a way to, it's like capturing a memory, I guess you want to say, for me anyway. Number 7 is to pray. So I am not a religious person. I am a spiritual person, but I do believe in God. And I do heavily believe in prayer in all things. That is one thing that I will turn to like certain religions for, because I don't know, it's just like a foundational thing for me, to read scriptures and stuff, because they apply to anyone in those kinds of situations. Like if I'm looking to have more faith or have more trust, I can usually find a scripture that helps me to feel better. So although I am not religious and I don't subscribe to any one religion, prayer just helps keep me calm, and having those conversations with God and talking myself down, and just speaking aloud makes me feel better. And it's just like, it just really works for me to keep my divine connection strong with my, with God and my ancestors and spirit guides and, all my whole spiritual team. If I'm having a really, a big moment and I need some help, I'm calling everybody. Like, everybody get in here, higher self, universe, ancestors, God, everybody, I need some help. And it just gets me back to that place of having faith, having trust, and knowing that I'm safe and protected, and that it's okay, and that I'm connected. And that's the biggest thing for me when I'm feeling anxious, is reminding myself that I have that divine connection, because having faith is, trusting things that you can't see. So in those moments when you're already feeling anxious, to have faith in something that you can't see can be really tricky. So for me, strengthening my prayer muscle, even when I'm not anxious, helps me to call on that when I am feeling anxious, because I know that it's already available to me. Number 8 is use my amethyst. So if you have ever experienced anxiety or panic attacks, I would recommend, if you want to, getting some amethyst and some selenite. So those two together usually can like keep me grounded and keep me sane when I'm going through anxiety. Sometimes if it's really heightened, I just have to figure out different ways, and it may not be all of these different things. It may just be something totally different. But for the most part, amethyst and selenite keep me calm. And, I just keep it on me somewhere on my body, and it relaxes me, and it reminds me to just relax, just calm down. It's okay. Number 9 is to watch something funny. So that's again taking your mind off of it. So instead of watching something that is going to make you sad or more anxious or remind you that you are going through an anxiety attack, watch something that has nothing to do with anything. Something that just makes you laugh and makes you feel happy. Because then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be anxious anymore because you're going to be laughing. And maybe you'll forget about what you're anxious about. Maybe you won't, but for the time being, you'll be laughing and you won't be anxious. And then you can, think about something else and move on and just build on that happy feeling that you're having. And number 10 is listen to sound therapy. So I have a sound therapy video that I put up on my YouTube, my I Just Want to Be Inspirational YouTube that you can find there. It's also, I think, on my Instagram too, my I Just Want to Be Inspirational Instagram. So you can find that there. You can also find different videos on YouTube for like megahertz sounds, or ocean waves, rain, different sounds that kind of just calm you down. For me, I like megahertz videos, and I also like ocean waves because it reminds me of being home in California, and that always makes me feel happy. So listening to people playing sound bowls or gongs or bells, chimes, those types of things kind of take your attention off of the anxiety and put you in a better state, and those megahertz videos are designed to kind of activate certain points in your body depending on which one you watch. So it could be sacral chakra, or I did a heart chakra one and I could feel it working in my body. So it's just something to check out. And then sound therapy is just really helpful, to take your mind off of it, to get you in a calm state, and focus on being in a different place where you're not feeling anxious. And a bonus thing that I do when I'm dealing with anxiety is walking. So even if it's just pacing back and forth in my room, standing up and getting out of my bed, because a lot of the times when I do feel anxious, it's first thing in the morning when I wake up, I just automatically start feeling anxious, and laying in my bed makes it worse. So standing up, walking around, and just pacing the room, talking to myself, reminding myself to calm down, it just, brings the anxiety down. Moving my body instead of just laying there. Getting up and walking always kind of brings me back down to earth, and it's a form of grounding because your feet are on the ground. So you're kind of reminding yourself that you're safe, you're stable, the ground, the earth has you, and everything is okay. So those are 11 things you can do if you are feeling anxious, if you are in the midst of an anxiety or a panic attack, and also if you want to keep those at bay and just kind of keep yourself calm so that those things don't happen, or you can catch yourself before it becomes an attack. Try these things and let me know how it goes. All right, so again, find me on social media. I Just Want to Be, that's AIJUSWANNABE_inspirational. That's my Instagram. You can find my website, www.ijustwanttobeInspirational.com. You can find me on YouTube under the same name, and TikTok under I Just Want to Be _INSP, because they would not let me spell inspirational. And this podcast. So share the podcast, like the podcast, find it on pretty much anywhere that you can find podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all those places you can find this podcast on there. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever else buttons they have on those podcasts. Spread the word and let people know about this podcast. And I will see you guys next time.